advocates and advisor to the San Francisco Arts Education Project. Her work has been honored by the San Francisco Bay Guardian Goldie Award and National Philanthropy Day Award, among many others. Please welcome Deborah Cullinan. And I'll turn it over to you, Deborah.
Thank you, Shay, and thank you, everyone. This is really exciting. I'm thrilled to be here. Distinction, massive thinkers, moderator, okay? It's the chair. So I think our job here today is to create a big space, to open us all up to this convening and to think big. And I think it's a much bigger spaces that we have already created. Interesting thinking about Rocco's, there's sort of feedback here, it's a little awkward, just Rocco's reference to theater companies and theater organizations and artists as placemakers. I challenge us to question our ability to make place. I think we do it well inside of our theaters, beautifully. But how are we doing it in terms of our relationship to the world around us? And so I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, does anyone remember this quote? It's by Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. He says, it goes like this: space is big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the road to the drugstore, insert theater, but that's just peanuts to space. So I think it's that kind of space we're talking about. It's the kind of unfathomable space that we need to reach for a new theater that resounds deeply and matters deeply. And I think it is this notion of defining our own big space, pushing past where we are now, and understanding how we connect our big space to the big spaces around us. So the five of us had an opportunity to talk. I listened, massive thinkers. We tried to not only see and put words to the world we're working in today, we also try to imagine the future. And I think the kind of future that we were talking about is one that learns from where we are, but most importantly, it's one that unsticks itself in order to move forward and hopefully revolutionize the way that we all work and the impact that we have in this country. So, join me again in welcoming these amazing people. I think they're utterly brave to do a thing that calls them massive thinkers and that says it's going to be big. So let's give them a round of applause. And so the way it's going to work, just to put more pressure on them, is we're going to take the next several minutes to hear each of them respond to a series of backstory questions that we will let you imagine for yourselves. But to the big, broad question, what do you see as the future of the new play development field in this country? And we're going to go down the line.
Howdy, my name's Kirk. I'm sorry about my voice. Is that, wait, what are we doing? Are we starting with you?
Yes, that way. Go.
Oh, I'm so sorry. All right, my name's Kirk. I'm sorry about my voice. I just had a 6-month-old daughter, and she just started going to daycare, and so I'm learning how you get colds from babies, giving babies colds. It's so weird. But I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm also really nervous. So I wanted to start with a little something to sort of dispel my own nerves, and also to make something with you as a first sort of gesture toward the kind of communication that I'm into. So I want you all to repeat after me, if you don't mind. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
I wish I was where you are.
I wish I was where you are.
And you were where I am.
And you were where I am.
At least we're here together.
At least we're here together.
Some of us.
Some of us.
At least we have this moment.
At least we have this moment.
Which cannot be repeated.
Which cannot be repeated.
Please. Help me to take it seriously.
Help me to take it seriously.
To do my best. To be unashamed to be myself.
To be unashamed to be myself.
And help me to feel at ease with you. Amen. So I'm going to tell you some things that I imagine and wish for the future of the American theater, and some other things that I sort of just wonder about. I tried to arrange them in an order that would give you an increasing feeling of incredulity. So I think you'll sense that coming on. But before I get really weird, I want to say a little bit about the people who are up here with me. I'm one of the rude mechs of Austin, Texas. We're a theater collective. We've been making collaborative performance for the past 15 years. There's actually 6 artistic directors: Madge Darlington, Thomas Graves, Lana Leslie, me, Kirk, Sarah Richardson, and Sean Sides. And we have about 30 company members. And they're all here with me now. And I realize that you can't see them, but I can. I feel like we're with each other all the time, even when we're alone, when we're at our desks, or when we're in our showers, wherever we have our best thoughts. Madge always has her best thoughts in the shower, and we're there with her. And being with each other, we have the comfort of hearing one another's criticism, and we also have one another's support. And I wanted to name them now as another way of comforting myself. And I do believe that if I was really in need and I called out for them, that they would come to me. And I think I would do the same for them. But that's one of the first futures that I want to talk about, this idea of collectivity, of ensemble, of people committing to each other to make art together. I want to imagine a little bit that it's 30 years in the future. If it was 30 years in the future, I would be 68 years old. Some of you would be even older than that. Some of you will be younger than that. And to be frank, some of us will be dead. And some of us will finally have been born, thank goodness. It'd be the year 2040, and I honestly believe that in the year 2040, the Rude Mechs will still be together, and that we'll still be making work. And I think that we'll be making it in a community in which there are more ensembles and in which there are more collectives, because I think it's a structure that's a really healthy structure, both for getting through hard times in the way that we lend one another money and give each other incredible emotional support, but also in the way that we've helped each other regulate success. Whether we're incredibly high on ourselves or we're incredibly low, we actually keep ourselves steady by committing to one another. And that's a future that I imagine for the American theater, a future that returns to a love of ensembles and companies and collectives, resident companies. I think, I wish and I imagine that in the same way that we long for great scripts, we look for great scripts, that we look for iconoclastic visionaries, that we also find a way to honor just great relationships. When you know that 2 people work well together, 4 people, a group of people work well together, to find a way to make art with them, not just for a singular script or a singular vision, but a way to honor just that relationship, because I think it's a healthy way to make art. Hold on a second. And from my life, I feel like there's every indication that that's already happening. There's a lot I could name. I made some notes to myself. I mean, just the Mellon Foundation, Creative Capital, NEFA, our relationship with Actors Theater of Louisville, with Center Theater Group. There's a lot of people that have already honored those things in our lives. Under the Radar does it in New York. Even the place where I work, which for a long time I felt like was sort of an enemy to this, but now I work at the University of Texas, and they're really reaching out to find ways to support other ensembles and to support companies as a whole, because I think they see the success of those things. And so I have great hope for that wish. Another value that I think is on the rise in the American theater, and I think is in some ways linked to this idea of companies and ensembles, is the idea of self-production. The community that I live in, Austin, Texas, is a community that is massively driven by self-production. Everybody I know has a theater company, is making theater, and I think it's a great thing. I think it's beautiful. Now that I teach a little bit, I think one of the things that we need to do, that I need to do, that's a calling of mine, is to not only teach the craft of this is how you write a play, this is how you direct a scene, but also this is how you produce theater. Not just, I think, including artistic production and technical production, but also business management. I had this weird experience where this intro to theater class, I took them to see a bunch of plays, and I had asked them at each play how much they thought it would cost. And we saw Zach Scott did a production of Metamorphosis, I think most of you know that play, and I asked him how much, this is the first play, and I said, how much do you think that cost to make? And I mean, college students said that they thought that might cost $3,000. And it was stunning to me. I feel like if you had engineering students who would misestimate how much a bridge cost by that degree, that we'd all be in the river. We would just be like, there's no way to build it in that way. So I want all of us to increase the access that people have to the tools, to the budgets, the transparency of what the work actually costs, and what people also donate to those things. One of the things I love, and one of the reasons I love self-producing, one of my core beliefs is that one of the great things about theater is that it makes more of itself. When people watch TV, they usually don't respond to it by making another TV show. But I guess it's probably my favorite thing about theater is that when people go see a show, they end up re-performing it for one another. When they tell you, this is what happened, and then I saw this thing, and they end up making a little piece of theater in their performance of it. If you ever get a chance to see artistic director Sean Side, she's gonna hate me for this, but get her to describe a Wooster Group show to you, and it's like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's so gorgeous. I wanted to use just a little bit of our valuable time to describe a show, one of the most recent shows that I really loved that was in Austin, Texas. There's a smaller company there called Rubber Repertory, and they made this totally weird piece called Biography of Physical Sensation. And the premise was that they interviewed a bunch of people in the community, and they found someone who had a wealth of journals and tapes and sort of her own personal history. And they sorted through all this stuff, and they interviewed this woman, and they made a series of physical sensations that they could rehearse and practice and then give to audience members from this woman's life. And so you would walk into this theater, and you got to choose whether you wanted to sit in a small, medium, or big chair, depending on how intense the physical sensation that you wanted. In a big chair, you got this totally intense physical sensation. One of them was, if you sat in a big chair, you could get shot with an air pistol. And if you sat in a little chair, you could get a really sort of gentle sensation. One person, I think, made smoothies based on these flavors that her grandmother would make her smoothies with and then share them with the audience. And I was on a date night with my wife, and so she wanted me to sit in at least a medium chair because she didn't want to be totally embarrassed. And the thing that happened to me was in a folding chair like these, they had me sit down in front of it, and there was a bag of freshly popped popcorn, and 4 or 5 of these would be going on at the same time. And a cast member reached through the back of the chair. I was sitting cross-legged on the floor, and he had a note in his hand that said, "Put your ear in my hand." And I laid my ear in his hand, and he grabbed my hair by the back of my head, and it hurt, and he pulled me into the chair really hard. And the thing that amazed me, I mean, it shocked me, and I didn't like it very much, but nobody in the theater saw it. This thing happened to me, this little bit of violence, and it made me suddenly realize that that's the way violence happens in my life, it happens in this woman's life, is that nobody notices it. And suddenly I was really aware of the way every individual in the audience carries around all these experiences and all of this history, and they're all private, they're all internal, and we don't know everything that's happened to everybody. And it was such a beautiful piece of theater at that moment that it gave me a broader sense of the world. And I told you that because I like reperforming theater, I like talking about theater, but another reason I told it is because one of the things that I think is a growing trend too, and a great resource that we can pull on, is the audience as a generative artist itself. Ways in which you can include the audience, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. There's just a story in the New York Times Magazine the other day about these immersive game playing, the use of online theater, questioning the audience. I think that's a thing that I'm really into and I'm really desirous of to see more of. So now quickly I want to close with what I think are some really outlandish things, I hope. It occurred to me as I was trying to think about, oh God, big thoughts, how terrible, my brief experience in 38 years is that the future gets weirder and weirder. Things don't get more normal or more like they are, they just get stranger and stranger. And so one of the things I wanted to think about for a bit, a thing I think about a lot, is whether or not we might be one of the last generations that dies. My wife once read this article that scientists might be able to make a pill so they could extend your life. You would take like a single pill, and because of the way it would manipulate your genes, you might live for another 300 years. And my wife, when she read this, she made me swear never to take that pill. Which was funny. But in thinking about if people stopped dying, if people lived forever, what that would do to performance. As it stands now, I don't want to see your 3-hour production of Strindberg's Diaries. But if time was infinite, you would probably make that like a 100-year piece. And then if you think about it, we would not be able to tell one another, no, I can't see your show, I'm busy. They'd be like, busy? You're going to live forever. Like, there's no end to time. You have to come